I'm the champ. Hey, who's the champ? Hey, I'm the champ. Hey, got my mind. Hey, Tadashi. Hey, got my body.
What's up, guys? I'm here with Mixed Martial Mike. I'm Joey KO, and we got some sad news, and we wanted to talk a little bit about a true legend, R.I.P. to Marvelous Marvin Hagler. What can you truly say that hasn't been said? I feel like Marvin Hagler doesn't really get the credit that he deserves. People put Sugar Ray Leonard ahead of him because they won that close fight, but for years, Sugar Ray Leonard was ducking Marvin Hagler. Everybody was ducking Marvin Hagler. Marvin Hagler, he was a switch fighter who can fight just as good lefty as he could righty. He had ridiculously long arms, power in both hands. He can knock you out. Combination, volume puncher. Very entertaining and exciting style to watch. To me, he probably is the best middleweight and one of the pound-for-pound greatest fighters that ever lived.
Of course, hearing all the stories growing up with you, telling me all the fights and telling me about Thomas the Hitman Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard, it's just so interesting that you're actually seeing a lot of these conversations resurface. On Twitter, Facebook, you're seeing people talk about those classic fights. I saw people arguing that Marvin Hagler won and there's nothing you could argue with me about. And that reminds me of my generation of arguing with you about Marquez and Pacquiao. So there's just something special about legendary fighters. A horrible day when you lose such a champion like Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
When I heard the news yesterday, I heard something about that he might have died because of the vaccine.
Thomas the Hitman Hearns actually posted this on his Instagram and said that he was in the ICU recovering from the vaccine.
And a lot of people have been complaining about the vaccines causing problems. What I can warn people is to be careful with vaccines, especially Johnson & Johnson being behind it, because they have a long history of lawsuits and settlements due to malpractice. Even recently, they have a big lawsuit against them because of baby powder. If you fuck up baby powder, dog, you're a fuck up. I know Marvin Hagler was in the 60s, 66 or something like that, but that's still way too young to pass away like that.
This pandemic is real. It can hit the rich, it can hit the privileged, it can hit legends, it can hit the ordinary. It can hit anyone. I don't necessarily believe it was Johnson & Johnson's or any specific vaccine distributor's fault or intention to cause the death, especially of Marvin Hagler. It's definitely cause to pause. We should all be wary of brand new technology and brand new medicines. This is not an indictment on vaccines in general. This is just specific to this new age vaccine.
I say that, and the only reason why I'm saying warning is because there's been a long history, not just behind Johnson & Johnson, but just the medical field in the United States, because there's a big business behind it.
Let's not drown this conversation with that drama. He doesn't deserve that. Let's celebrate the man's career.
With all due respect to everyone.
3 losses and 2 draws. All 3 of his losses were controversial. He avenged the first 2 losses. And also his draw that he got in his first world title fight was a controversial draw because he beat the crap out of Montefermo and they called it a draw. And even his first world championship victory was tainted when the fans threw stuff in the ring. They started throwing bottles in the ring and he couldn't even receive his championship the way he's supposed to. So he really came up the hard way, probably harder than any other great fighter, because he didn't get a title shot until his 47th fight and then got robbed with a draw. And I remember when he said that he vowed to never let it go to the judges.
Because this fight don't necessarily have to go 12 rounds, because I'm out there to rip his head off.
And after that, most of his opponents got knocked out. 12 world title defenses as an undisputed middleweight. Only guy who did more than him at middleweight was Carlos Monzon. Man, you couldn't say enough.
One thing I would add is that of all the thousands of hundreds of thousands, maybe there's been a couple million rounds of boxing. I don't even know. I don't know if I can even figure that out. If you go from fan to fan across generations, they'll say Thomas the Hitman Hearns versus Marvin Hagler. Round 1 was one of the greatest rounds of all time. Just
Oh,
that
yeah.
alone gives him a legendary career. But then when you stack the fact that he only had 3 losses, that he avenged a bunch of them, that he beat, in a lot of people's eyes, he beat Sugar Ray Leonard, who was a legend in his own right.
Marvin Hagler really was unbeatable. Like I said, he had great footwork, great defense, great offense, power in both hands. He had 52 knockouts too. He really was a killer in that ring. And
Wow.
man, he was a problem. There's no wonder why so many people were ducking him. People did not want it with him, and I don't blame him. This guy was no joke. Action-packed, nothing shy about him. The mentality, I mean, when he started making money, he actually bought a abandoned church and moved in. He didn't buy a mansion and want to get himself a nice home. He built a house right outside for his wife, and he basically spent all day training in his gym in an abandoned church. He was no joke. No joke.
That's incredible.
The mentality that he had was crazy. He was like, I vow to never let it happen again. Never let it go to the judges again.
I think that is funny. That's another Dana White quote. He loves to say, don't let it go to the judges. He actually believed in that, fought through that. We're all going to miss him. Is there anything that the new generation can learn from a guy like that? Is tenacity, becoming the undisputed champion, which means you fight the best. I believe there's a quote out there that he said, the one thing when I'm gone that I wish boxing would bring back is the fact that there's only one champion per division. Let's make him happy, and rest in peace. Our condolences to Marvin Hagler and to all the
and one of the
family.
things he used to say before we say goodbye is that he said, I remember coming up, he said that he was hexed. 1, because he was black. 2, he's a lefty. And 3, he was good. So he was just, nobody wanted to fight him. R.I.P. Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Rest in peace, champ.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Peace, y'all.
I want to prove to the world that I am one of the greatest.